Hello, how are you doing? And welcome to today's message. Were you there on Sunday? If you were, then I'm sure you experienced a fantastic wedding. I wasn't there, but I still would like to just say congratulations to Matthew and Hazel if you're watching this, and may God bless your marriage richly. But now on to the talk. Have you ever been in awe of someone else's faith in God? Have you ever visited a different country and wondered how those people have such zeal and passion for Jesus compared to what is familiar to you in your own country? And then what about the persecuted church? Have you ever wondered about how they managed to seemingly thrive in their relationship with God under such extreme pressure? Maybe, maybe not. Well, it's something I think about from time to time, and for me, in doing some reading and some thinking about this, there are some clear differences between sort of our Western Christianity and how Jesus is expressed in, well, these other parts of the world. So I'm just going to highlight a few things which may or may not be helpful to us. Thing one, as Christians, in terms of physical resources, I think we have too many. Well, maybe I do. Did you know that there are more than 100 complete, that is New and Old Testament, there are more than 100 complete translations of the Bible? And that is just into English. And obviously it's great for helping us to understand the detail and find a version in the style of English we prefer. But what overall difference does it make to the effectiveness of the church? If anything, it seems to create something else to argue about, which I've seen on social media too many times. You know, this version is better than that version. This one carries more authority than that one. This particular translation is more accurate than that one that you read. And we have these arguments because obviously we want to feel that we are right. Well, there's stuff that compounds the issue as well. The sheer amount of books that are available to us. Tens of thousands of them. There are even books written about books that have been written. I know. So if you read a book about the Puritans, well, that's often based on a book that the Puritans have written, for example. So there are books on books, and there are lots of them. There are courses, there are conferences, and all of this stuff which is designed to resource us to live our lives for Jesus in this world. And same with Sunday services. I'd argue that one of the aspects of the Sunday service, again, is to resource us as Christians living in our country to live out our lives for Jesus. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying any of these things are bad, but the sheer amount of those things relative to the effectiveness of the church made me wonder what the problem is. Because where's the fruit from all this stuff? We're learning all the time as Christians. We're reading, we might even be studying, or we're coming to a Sunday service and we're listening. But what's the point of it? What are we doing with it all? What's happening? Why isn't the church growing? Did you know that according to the CEO, that's Clive Calver of the Evangelical Alliance, so according to Clive Calver, not Clive Calver, it's Gavin Calver. Gavin Calver is Clive Calver's son. Anyway, according to Gavin Calver, who is the CEO of the Evangelical Alliance, many churches in this nation are reporting that there's an increasing hunger for Jesus in our communities. How about that? But what do we do with that? Do we just let people get hungry and then go and find something else to eat instead of Jesus? Or do we take Jesus into our communities and create an opportunity for people to feast on him. So I think the first issue we have is that we have too many resources as a church in this nation, because we've got all this stuff and not much seems to be being done with it. And that leads on to the second, and that is overcomplication. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 1, it says, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. That's 1 Corinthians 8 verse 1b. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. The word in Greek for knowledge there literally means inflate, so to inflate. So, but it's used to describe an arrogant person. Knowledge on its own, of course, is the thing that they're talking about here, not the combination of wisdom and knowledge. And with all these wonderful resources that we have, we get to know an awful lot of stuff. And of course this can help us with our walking with Jesus. It can help us with our faith in God. But only if we do something with the knowledge. Or else we become like someone that has a gym membership but never goes, not putting the work in and not getting any benefit from it, and yet think that they're getting fitter because they are a member of a gym. You've got to actually do something with your membership. You've got to make use of it, haven't you? And during this pandemic time, we've had a lot more time to read and think and pray and reflect on what is important to us as Christians. And as you know, in the church at this time, a number of people have volunteered for stuff previously, have either retired or decided to step down for a whole variety of reasons, which is fine. But with all that, the question still remains, what are we doing with what we are learning? I mean, this series on Mark that we've been doing, what are you doing with that? What am I doing with that? And I think there's a real call for us to actually go back to basics and to know and to learn, relearn the basics and actually do them well before we start thinking about gaining lots of knowledge in a whole lot of other areas of Christian life. When I used to work for the Congregational Federation, one of the questions I would ask a church that invited me to help them to do community outreach was this: do you know how good the good news is? So, what about you? Do you know how good the good news is? And if you're nodding at me or going, yes, Dave, I know how good the good news is, that's fantastic. So then I have another question for you. Can you tell me the gospel? And often that second question was met with silence when I'd meet with a group from a church. What about you? Could you tell somebody the gospel message in short, simple terms? Now, if the answer is no, or I don't know, and you'd like to do that, then drop me an email or give us a ring. And maybe we can put a group together that we can learn the gospel, really well together, and learn how to communicate it really well to those in our community, and then actually do it. So if you're up for that, send us an email or something, and if there's enough people, we'll do something about it. Because we can't just learn stuff and not do things about it. Otherwise, we end up being full of knowledge and useless. Because what use is knowledge unless you use it or do something with it? I'm just going to check how I'm doing for time at the moment. I'm at 9 minutes. Okay. So there was going to be a part 3, but I might save part 3. And part 3 is about the verse John 3:16. I'll go on, I'll mention it. If you've watched this much, I'm sure you can bear with me for another few minutes. John 3:16, the most famous verse in the Bible. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. Now this is what we're talking about when it comes to basic stuff. A Bible verse like that becomes so well known that it gets lost in all the other stuff, or in all the other knowledge that we gain, in all the other marginal theology as well, that we sometimes forget the central stuff. And just ponder on that verse, think about that, you know. Let me just refresh you of a few things in that verse. For God so loved the world, he loves you, you are absolutely loved. And do you know how much you're loved? Well, that he loves you so much that, well, he gave the most precious person for you and me. You know, God made all this wonder that we have, and you think we measure stuff in, we measure value often in terms of money or gold or things like that. So let's think about the value that we are to God then in this. So God didn't cheapen us by trading 1,000 cattle for you and I. No, we're worth more than 1,000 cattle. So it doesn't say for God so loved the world, he gave 1,000 cattle. No, it's like for God so loved the world, he gave a large, majestic mountain range. No, more than that. Okay, for God so loved the world that he gave 1,000 galaxies for you. Oh, now that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? That you are worth 1,000 galaxies. But no, you're worth even more than that, because he loved the world so much, he loved you so much, that he gave his one and only Son. He gave his one and only Son for you and for me. Now that's basic, but that is precious, that is valuable, that is worth knowing, and that is worth telling. So let's put our faith afresh in Jesus today, in a simple and uncomplicated way, such that his Spirit in us wells up like living water, overflowing from us into the lives of others around us, that they will know and see the joy of Jesus in us, because we are saved, we are free, because of his great love for you and for me. And now I'm going to finish it there, and I suggest that you actually stop this and you pause and you just give thanks for what God has done for you, and you ask him to remind you of that again today. Okay. God bless, and bye for now. Oh, that's my knee, by the way.